today's book that we're doing is Crucial Conversations. This book, I've seen it recommended in church denominations for training in their staff and elders, training for counseling. We've used it here at the Gospel Rescue Mission with tremendous success, and I'd like to share with you some of the reasons why we found it valuable, and maybe why you should think about picking up your own copy of Crucial Conversations. So today, I'm going to talk to you about the path to action. And it's one of the things that we have found really, really helpful in both counseling and in helping just kind of redirect people into a place of a healthy direction in their life as opposed to one of homelessness. So I think it's really helpful. I hope to share with you something good today. So what we often see when we see people coming in off the streets are people who have feelings, there we go, feelings of hopelessness. Or despair. We see a lot of anger and fear. And these tend to lead people, these feelings tend to lead people into a series of bad actions. It tends to lead people into the things that result in homelessness. It's things like addiction or isolation. You see a lot of violence. And a lot of just really running. And so what we see is that one leads to the other, that feelings lead to action. We constantly catch this bad action in the homeless community, and we're going, why is this here? Why are we seeing this activity going on? Well, when we talk to them, we see that they have a lot of feelings in common. So one of the things that we started doing was going, how can we address this in a way that's helpful? With Crucial Conversations, what they've talked about is really this full path to action. And the full path to action starts here. It starts with what you see, hear, or observe. Okay? And then what you see, hear, and observe, you ask a question of, why did I see, hear, and observe that? Well, most often what we do is we tell a story. Okay? Now, it's not always us, but it could be others that tell the story. And the story leads to our feelings. And feelings lead to action. And here you have the complete path to action. And so if we're ever going to correct this, what we really have to do is we have to correct this. It really comes down to mastering one's story. And this is something that Gospel Rescue Missions have that's unique, is an ability to help correct the story, plus we get to introduce the truths of the gospel into that storyline, which changes absolutely everything. Let me give you an illustration to see what we're talking about. So let's say I have somebody who comes in who has been victimized in their life, who's coming in from maybe a broken marriage in which they don't know what's going on. They don't understand why why the marriage is falling apart. But they noticed that their spouse had put distance between them, and they were seeing, hearing, observing this behavior between them and their spouse, which eventually, with no communication, they start telling themselves a story about it. Why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? And the story they tell themselves is, you're not a good person. You're not a good person. You're not doing all that you could do, and even what you could do is the wrong things. And so again, they tell this story to themselves, which leaves them feeling how? Well, hopeless, full of despair, maybe anger, maybe fear. Okay, all of these things, which leads to actions. What do I do? Oh no, what do I do? Well, I may start reducing myself to addiction or isolation. Maybe I start acting out violently, trying to grab onto the thing that I'm telling myself I'm losing. Or maybe I just start running. I just think I can't live with hearing one more time that I'm failing at something. And so, again, by the time we get here and we say, okay, this person has now been using drugs, maybe isolated, lost their marriage, they've been out on the streets for a long time with this story echoing through their mind, okay? And they finally get to the place where they're like, I'm worthless. I don't do people right. I don't understand how to deal with life. I behave inappropriately. I don't know what to do. Well, why do you use drugs? Well, because who would want to live life feeling this way all the time? I can't sleep because of it. I can't eat right because of it. All of these things. So again, what we see is this pathway that's leading to a bad action. So one of the things that we have to do is help this person begin to identify when they're feeling this way. Help identify the stories that lead up to this bad feeling. How did they get there? How did they get to this point? And what we may find out is, okay, well, golly, yeah, they saw their spouse leave. They saw this thing happen. It may not have been all the story that could be told. Proverbs 18:17 says this. It says that the first person to bring their story, the first person to tell their story always seems right, until somebody comes and cross-examines it. And so one of the things, even when that person to tell the story to ourselves is ourselves about how we got to this spot, we tend to just reinforce it and reinforce it. It always seems right. We tell the story that seems most right to us. It could be that our spouse told us this story, that the spouse said these bad things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all there is to be said of the story. And so a person, obviously, they're feeling bad because of this story that's just reaffirming itself, and they're constantly in this bad feeling. No wonder they want to isolate. No wonder addiction sounds good. No wonder running or violence might sound good. It makes sense. It makes sense if this story is true. The question that you have to ask and continually challenge is the story true? So learning to master the story is so important. So what if we can come in and say, hey, I've got good news for you. The story you've been telling yourself may not be all there is to the story. First of all, if you're in a bad relationship, that takes two people, okay, at least, to make that relationship bad. And so you're not the only player in that story. Second of all, just because you didn't know, just because you didn't have a good relationship skill, doesn't mean you can't learn one, okay? And so it's not all that there is to be said. You may find yourself in a bad condition at one point in time, but you don't have to stay in that bad condition. You can learn new skills, new talents, new relationship abilities, and you can actually get to where you're pretty good at it, even if you weren't when you began. And then here's where gospel rescue missions are unique. Gospel rescue missions have this great thing. We tell them that you are created in the image of God. that you were created in the image of God and capable of great things. And not only that, but even if you failed in your past, that there is somebody who bled and died to give you his perfect life, to redeem the life that you once had, and maybe you were sowing in death and sowing in all the wrong things into your life. This person came into time and space, Jesus Christ, came into time and space and wants to give you a new life. So the old things don't have to stay the way they are. They can pass away and you can move on into this new life. And so suddenly, this story can change. You're not doomed to this action because you're not doomed to these feelings, because you can have a different story. So let me give you a quick illustration of how this works in a real simple way. So let's imagine that you are waiting to get out of a movie theater, and at the end, you parked at the very far end of the parking lot, and it's dark out. It's nighttime. And the parking lot's already emptied because you watched the entire movie and you watched all the credits and everything. And so you're walking out, you're getting ready to leave the theater, and you look across, and there's your car, but in between you and your car is a large man in a dark hoodie leaning against a lamppost. Okay? Now, you could tell yourself the story that, well, looky there. The theater has actually provided security to make sure that I get to my car safely. Okay, now if that's the story you're telling yourself, how's that going to make you feel? Well, if you believe that that's the case, you're going to tend to go, oh, okay, I feel good. Woohoo! I'm happy as I go and walk my way to the car, and I'm going to feel much better. Now, same story, and the one that we're probably more apt to, the same scenario, but the one that we're more apt to tell ourselves is, oh no, there's my car, there's somebody in between us, it's dark out, and he's wearing a hoodie. I bet he's looking to get me. He's probably looking to take advantage of me while I'm alone in the parking lot between here and my car. Now what's happening? Well, now I'm feeling all kinds of troubled, and all of a sudden, my adrenaline's kicking in, okay, because the story that I'm telling myself, the adrenaline's kicking in, and so once the adrenaline kicks in, now here's another thing. My body actually looks for reasons to justify the adrenaline. So what happens? It doubles down on the same story. And now I'm going in this cycle here where I'm telling myself a story, you're in danger, tell yourself the story, you're in danger, and so it's making me feel more and more troubled, which is going to cause me to do what? Run. It's going to cause me to run to my car in fear and terror. Now, here's the thing. Neither of those stories are necessarily true of what I saw, hear, or observed. I probably should have asked maybe a movie theater staff and said, hey, did you know there's a guy out there waiting outside in the parking lot? And they could say, oh yeah, that's the new security guard we just hired, and he's going to make sure you get there safely. They could also say, well, that's really strange. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll send some staff out there to just keep an eye on you and make sure you get to your car safely between here and there. And either way, it would change the way I feel, which would change the way I act. So the point is that the story we tell about what we see, hear, and observe determines how we feel. And even though you've got the exact same scenario in both of those stories, the story that we told was different, which determined how we felt, which will determine how we act. You see how that works? And that's going to work. That's going to work for the homeless guy who also says, I'm worthless. I have no value in life. If all they're hearing is some Darwinistic idea that they have become all that they're capable of because they're in some class somewhere down here and this is the best they can be, well then, if we've resigned them to, well, it's just addiction and they can't get out of addiction. It's just mental health issue and they can never get out of mental health issues. If we are reinforcing a story that's negative, well, how are they ever going to feel anything but hopeless, despairing, anger, and fearful? And of course, Why won't they just continue in homelessness, in isolation, in addiction, running from people who are trying to help them all the time? It's the story that they've told themselves. And this is why the story of the gospel is so important and why it's so effective in helping the homeless. Because we're not just telling them, you can do better. We're saying you were made to do better because the creator of the universe knows your name. And he has, all your suffering is not missed on him. And whatever reasons for your suffering, what it isn't, is it's not punishment on you because he sent his son into the world to take the punishment for your sins and mine. And he loves you and wants to change your life and cause you to live a life that glorifies him. Now, if we can actually help them believe that that story is true, which in our experience and from what we've seen and what we know from the scriptures, it is in fact true, then it still may not help us explain why did we see, hear, and observe all the things that we've done, but it allows us to tell a new story. I can't explain all the reasons for all the things that have happened to you in life, but I can certainly tell you this, that in addition to all the things that have happened to you in life, you are worthy of a life that is fruitful, a life that is able to produce and do good things for, not just for yourself, but to be a blessing to those around you. You have the ability to bless others the same way that we want to bless you in making this thing change. And all of a sudden what you have is people that now feel really good about their lives. And what that tells you is this also, that you are in charge of this. You are in charge and have some say into how you feel about your life. So it's funny because Jesus in John 8:31 and 32 says something like this. He says that if you abide in my words, you will be my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Okay, and so Jesus puts a strong tie to if you're telling yourself the story that Jesus tells, live in his words about who you are, about who he is, then what will happen is you'll know the truth about what you see, hear, and observe. And the truth will actually set you free. It'll set you free. It'll change the way you feel about the life that you live. It'll change the way you feel about those things that are fearful in front of you. It'll give you hope, and that will change your actions. There's a reason why 1 in 4 people that come to the Gospel Rescue Mission in Grants Pass, Oregon, leave with an income stream and leave with a home. And it's because we have enabled them to become men and women who flourish in their life. Because this truth has spoken power and change into their lives. That's the thing that we've learned, one of the things that we've learned from the Crucial Conversations series. And we're hoping that this will be something that you can use in your life. I'm looking forward to telling you more about Crucial Conversations and some of the other books that came through the Vital Smarts group, through Crucial Learning, and these folks. It's very powerful and very helpful towards making change in people's lives. God bless you, and I can't wait to tell you more next week.